Hey now everybody, this is Professor Island, and today we're talking about formatting, and specifically we're talking about the English 101 final paper outline. One of the requirements for your final paper is an outline. It is something dictated by the department, and as part of that there's a logic to this. An outline allows you to create the structure, the skeletal structure of what you're going to talk about, and to run it by me before you get too far into writing that paper so that we can have a conversation about what's working and what's not. To create your outline, I would have you look at my outline of an outline on my website, and you will see that some of the elements that you would have already known by that time are pretty clear. The introduction is very short, just a background statement and a thesis statement, and the conclusion likewise is also short. It's a summary of your overall point with some kind of projection or call to action. For those parts of your outline, what I'm really looking for in the introduction is your thesis statement. You can tell me generally what the background statement might be, whether it's a definition or something along those lines. But I actually want your actual thesis statement, as best you know it, in your outline so I can see where the rest of your paper is going. Likewise, your summary of your point is also going to be a restatement of your thesis statement, not in its exact words, obviously rephrase it in some particular way, but have that in there as well. Where I'm really examining what you're doing, especially in terms of structure and organization of your paper, are the body paragraphs. You'll notice on my website that I give you an example of one body paragraph. For your final paper outline, I need at least 4 body paragraphs. And in them, you're going to be examining not a paragraph of symbols, and then a paragraph of irony, and then a paragraph of conflict, but rather taking an item, an incident, some kind of aspect of the story, and showing me your understanding of the symbolism and the irony and the conflict in that particular event, and then also demonstrating where you're going to be using specific passages of primary text and secondary text, which is your research. For example, if you're going to be covering Sonny's Blues, you might look at the issue of the main character's struggle with his brother. And so you'd start out with something like, you know, the narrator has a man versus man conflict with his brother. Well, if you write a simple paragraph on man versus man conflict, you're not going to get very far, and there's really not a whole lot to say. They have a conflict about their lifestyles and things like that, and it creates a very kind of thin paragraph. Instead, what I would have you do is look at the narrator and say something along the lines of, the narrator himself has basically these bigger issues, and some of it is reflected in his conflict with his brother. And you'd start out your body paragraph with a minor point of being, this is his man versus man conflict with Sonny, and explain what it is. And then also you might say he also has a conflict with environment, with the outside environment, especially the environment that Sonny lives in. You talk about what he thinks about his students, talk about what he thinks of Sonny's friends and other people who have fallen prey to heroin. And the idea is that now you're developing this character and who he is and what he thinks in one paragraph, and you're using both the primary source, the story itself, as well as secondary sources, resources that talk about the story, who will say things like, the main character's primary conflict with his brother is overwhelming guilt about not taking care of him in the first place, even though he promised it to his mother. You also have some of these elements of whether or not this character, ironically, is as honest or as upright as he claims. You know, he's a teacher and he sees himself as above his drug-using, jazz-playing brother, but he himself says that he knows that his students are running off to go get high in the bathroom. He does nothing about that. He has abdicated his position of authority, and as part of that, it is his conflicts with his brother which really reveal an internal conflict, which is a great way to show not only symbolism but also irony embedded within the conflict. And that's how I want that paragraph to be developed. And so the paragraph may be a page and a half, maybe 2 pages long, in which you're covering all these things. And what holds it all together is that it's about the narrator. Likewise, you might move on to another topic and talk about the author's use of darkness and light. It's in the drink. It's in that scene where they're sitting in the front room. Slowly goes dark. You also have the conflict of dark and light in terms of the race issues that are brought up in the story. And now you have symbol, you have some elements of irony, and you certainly have conflict all wrapped up in that one paragraph. Your topic sentence will give me the overall point, and then in the structure that you're giving me in the outline, just give me general points. Man versus man conflict, you might even say what it is. Throw in the quotation. Show me the quotation you're going to use, so that way we can talk about whether or not it's relevant to the point you're trying to make. Find your secondary source quotation and throw it in there. Give me brief responses. When you actually write your paper then, you're going to look at the structure and you're going to fill it in with more you. So that way you're going to end up with 20% quotation, but when you give me your outline's more likely to be 40, 50, maybe 60% quotation. And the idea is that when using your outline, it'll help you to write your paper with you simply filling in and explaining more in your own words. The outline is part of your paper. It's 10% of your grade for the paper, but also it provides you an opportunity to get feedback from me on a paper that you will not be able to revise. So get it in early, earlier than the due date, but certainly get it to me by the due date, and when we have a conversation back and forth about what's working and what's not, use that to help formulate your paper to maximize your grade and get the best possible result from it. Okay? Stay in touch.